It's been quite a while since I've been up here and done anything. I think I had a sort of a big project on, and I sort of got towards the end of that, and I also had a good number of frustrations with everything and stuff not working. So I did kind of put a lid on it and come away. But I'm ready to start again now, and I've got all the automations running again, and I'm starting to work through what those frustrations are. The major frustration, I have to say, I will leave for another video because I've kind of got to the end of the road with it, and I'm going to go with a complete alternative that I'm kind of formulating a plan for in my head. The minor frustrations, so this is going to be kind of a minor rant video, I should think, were really around these two trains and the way they're manufactured and what I consider to be some pretty fundamental flaws with them. One little bit of progress I made after I made the last video actually was I at least implemented the functionality for stopping sensors, and I did put one on this little line here. So I've now got these trains stopping in a pretty precise manner. It's about to cross the stopping sensor now, and the stopping sensor gives it enough space. It doesn't suddenly stop when it hits the stopping sensor. It kind of ramps down and then stops nicely, precisely on the platform where I'd like it to be. Let's start with this one then, since it's coming up the hill and I can film it. So this one is an Iffy Rail class, I can't remember, 154 is it? Twin pacer, and when I first got it, it ran really well, consistently, and never stalled. But after I'd had it a month or two, it started really stalling quite badly, and I turned it upside down and I got a continuity tester on it, and it became fairly obvious that the pickups from the back coach, which is a dummy, anything that was being picked up wasn't being sent through the coupling and into the motorised coach at the front, where the decoder could do something with it. I'm going to try and walk with this. So it was still under warranty, so I thought, well, I'll send it back. So I sent it back. They were very good. Bachmann seemed to own Iffy Rail, and I think Iffy Rail must be a budget brand, I don't know. Sent it off to them. They were very good, and it came back after a very short period of time, and the note on it said pickup springs changed on rear coach, which wasn't really a surprise on dummy coach. So I put it back on the line, and it ran perfectly for a couple more months, and then it started doing exactly the same again. And it cost me postage every time. I thought, I can't send this thing back every 2 months to be repaired when it stops working. So if the problem was with the pickup springs on the back of it, then I'll take it apart and I'll have a look and I'll see what I can find. And what I actually found, because I've got it working at the minute, I'm not going to take it apart. If it fails again while I'm making this video, then I will. But what I found was, on the dummy coach, you can take the wheel housings off the back just by removing a screw, and what you find underneath is the pickups are kind of, they have upward facing blades coming from the wheels, because there's only 8 wheels on the whole thing, which is why it has kind of pickups all the way through. The upward pointing blades, copper or whatever it is, something conductive. They have springs wrapped around those upward facing blades, and then inside the coach itself there are metal conductive strips, and the idea is when you put the wheel housing into the unit and screw it down, the springs make contact with the plates, and therefore you have conductivity. The problem with that, it seems to me, is those springs very quickly lose springiness. So they just stop making contact with the plates, which stops any, and it happens pretty quickly, and it happens to all the wheels. And so very quickly you end up with nothing being picked up from the back wheels. Now the springs in question are absolutely tiny. I bought some extra ones, actually. There's my finger, just to give it a bit of scale. They're absolutely tiny little springs, and they, like I said, they just lose springiness, and you can see I've made a few attempts to stretch them. So initially I was taking them off, I was stretching them a bit and putting them back in, and that sort of worked, but it stopped working after a while. So I experimented and I ended up buying some. I took a few attempts, but buying some springs that would sit on those plates and replace them. They're a bit long, so I can kind of cut them in half. But even what I tried initially was, I thought, well, I'll try longer springs, because if there are longer springs, there's less. Less give, I guess. But the problem with putting longer springs on is that the wheel housings are only held onto the main train body with one screw. So if you're putting a spring on that starts off by exerting massive pressure, the one screw in the wheel housing simply doesn't have enough purchase onto the body to hold the wheel housing in place, and it ends up pushing down onto the rail, and you end up with kind of one housing being lower than another one on the train, and you just get silly derailments and the train looks a bit daft anyway. So I do seem to be resigned to the fact with this train. The thing is, I like it, and I like it doing this job it's doing as one of the little shuttles that runs up and down. So I am kind of resigned to the fact that when it starts to stall, and the double slips on the layout are the first indication of that, because they are initial frog, because there's no electro frog double slips in code 100. So as soon as this thing starts to stall on double slips, I know it's time to get it upside down, get the two wheel housings out and change the springs again, which is a bit of a pain in the backside. And the other problem is here with this class 101. This is a Bachmann class 101, and it wants to be a really good runner. I can see what a smooth, good runner it will be, but it does have a problem, and again, it's with these kind of sprung pickups. So I'm going to follow it out from the station as it pulls out, and you see just how kind of calm and smoothly it runs. I really do want this train to be as good as it can be, if you like, but it has a problem on double slips. And again, double slips, I can only have initial frogs double slips on here, which is really annoying, because I think if I had electro frog ones I wouldn't have this issue. But we should see here, well, we didn't that time, which is good, because I have had it apart and fixed it. But the problem with the 101 is that ultimately the same as the problem with the 154, which is sprung pickups that don't have constant contact between the pickup from the wheel and effectively the path to the motor. And the problem again with this one was these sprung pickups. Now, in contrast to the 154, this train only has pickups in the motorised car, which is the front one as I'm looking at it here, I think. The back car, although there are connections that control lights, there's nothing between the two. There's no pickups from the back. But 8 wheels on the front car should be enough. But it was stalling, and especially over double slips, it was stopping. And what I discovered was it's motorised on the back bogie. The front bogie has pickups and they work fine. The back bogie again has a kind of sprung arrangement where there are blades facing upwards coming from the bogie itself. It's quite easy to get at them, thankfully. You can just take the plastic housing off the bogie, turn the thing upside down. You don't have to take the lid off the train or anything, and you can sort of see what's going on. So there's these upward facing blades again coming from the pickups from the wheels, and they are supposed to make contact with slightly sprung metal pads that are sort of sprung to go downwards. But again, the springiness on them had worn off when I took it apart, and the vast majority of the time the blades on the back bogie weren't making contact. Now, luckily, I've googled it as well, and there are people who say, look, just take the whole thing apart and solder a connection between the blades, and I'd like to do that. I'm just not entirely confident with these more modern trains that if I take the whole thing apart, I'll be able to put it back together again. So I've just done a very quick and dirty fix at the minute, which was get a screwdriver underneath the downward facing pads and just pull them down a bit more to hopefully give them a bit more springiness and make contact more likely. And as it kind of demonstrated when it went over the double slip before, that has made a definite difference. It's not stalling. It used to be quite a hesitant train as well, but it doesn't hesitate at all now. So that seems to have improved things, and I think it's before taking the whole thing apart, I think that's the method I would use to try and improve things again if it does start stalling again, especially on those Insul Frog double slips. I don't want to go on about this too much, but it is a frustration. Again, it actually, I considered making a video about this because it's actually a fact that no locomotive I've ever bought brand new has lasted more than a month before being sent back to the manufacturer. Every single loco I've bought brand new has had to go back, which doesn't instill me particularly with confidence. And you know, these things are expensive. I've said that before. I do expect a certain standard of design on these things which is reliable, and maybe there's a convenience factor. Maybe if the pickups were soldered to the blades, then you can't get the wheel housing off, and that there are obviously issues with it. But the bottom line is the current solution with these sprung pickups doesn't work, and that's all I'm gonna say. Doesn't work for me anyway. I did do a few bits of I don't know, electrical maintenance as well to try and improve things on the lower deck. I think the very first blocks that I designed and wired up, I made a fundamental mistake on. It was a couple of months ago I did this, but I did film it, so I'll kind of paste them into the video here. I must be mad. This is definitely a lesson in making sure that you plan your blocks as well as you possibly can, because I ended up with blocks on each end of the layout here that are not planned well and were causing me lots of problems with automation. The problem is here around this set of points. There are insulated rail joiners on this end of the set of points, and this is where the new block starts. That's a previous block that's quite long and goes off. But the problem is here. Now, if you're going straight over this set of points, in fact this way because it's anti-clockwise. So if you come from here, you've come from kind of the yard bypass all the way down there, and there's a signal way down there, and that's where the end of that block is. That's a lovely long block, and it ends there. Lovely. This end, however, this is a block in itself. This is the anti-clockwise yard exit. So a train's in another block until it hits this one. And then it's actually a member of that great big long block as soon as it hits this set of points, and then it goes to the end. So first of all, I've got an incredibly short block, which is an issue. And secondly, if there's a train on this line, there's a signal here. If there's a train on this line waiting for the train in the yard to get out, the train in the yard isn't going to be able to get out because the train waiting here also has this set of points active and occupied. So the train here is never going to get out because the train here, because it's connected in the same block as this set of points, is blocking it because this set of points is occupied. Whereas if the block ends here and this set of points is part of that block, these are independent and it doesn't matter what's happening in them because they're both feeding into a new block here, which is what I should have done and what I'm going to try and fix. So this end actually is relatively straightforward. I've had to pull a plank out, but I haven't that track. I'm hoping the plank will just slide back under it and that'll all be okay. So all I've had to do is disconnect this track, and I'll put an insulating rail joiner on here, swap a few wires around because this set of points has power. So I will swap a few wires around so that this set of points, it has droppers, I mean. This set of points, although I'll leave that insulating rail joiner in, I'll just join a few wires up and make sure it's it connects into the sensor that feeds the rest of that block. The clockwise one is going to be a bit more of an issue because I don't want to lift this block up because there's just too much track and it's fillered in there. So I'm going to have to get a bit more imaginative with this one, and I'm going to leave that for now. And well, I've managed to get the insulating rail joiner on the end of there, which is perfect. So I can switch the blocks around. I can do this on the other side as well. There are 2 insulating rail joiners there, 2 insulating rail joiners there, and that means I can just make this the end of that block by taking its droppers and connecting them to the sensor that's down there. And then I've got this, because it's a 1 rail detector down here, so instead of the block ending there, the block's going to end there, and the 1 rail detector that's detecting on this rail will only start detecting when trains move onto there, which is perfect. I haven't got the same easy solution on the clockwise line though. Further back, there's a metal rail joiner there which is conductive, but that connects to a straight piece of track which is under the other baseboard, and connects in a very short space of time to another turnout. And I really don't fancy trying to take that block up, because I'd have to take at least one of the other turnouts up, and also then the motor and everything else, and I can't be bothered with that. So I've come up with a slightly more straightforward solution, and that is a good old-fashioned IR sensor. Now, it won't stop the problem. It will still mean that this turnout is kind of in the wrong block. It's still going to be in that block rather than the other one. So there'd still be that queuing problem, but to be honest, I've never really had that problem, because stuff that goes down there keeps moving because it's the bypass line anyway. So the only problem I've really got to solve is the incredibly short block, which is the length, effectively the short block when stuff is going into the yard. So I've come up with the most basic of infrared solutions, because it doesn't matter, this stuff's all going to be covered up anyway, so it doesn't really matter that it's visible, but it's just a simple fact of a very kind of low sensitivity infrared sensor facing some very reflective material. That's just the tape I used on the insulation, and then when something passes by, it breaks the beam, and therefore says that the block is occupied. And so I'll go for the same solution that I went for with the LDRs down there, which is having combined sensors for that block. So if the IR sensor, if its beam is broken, or if the current sensor is active, then this block is occupied. And what that means is, as stuff with no resistive wheel sets comes through this block from the or into the yard, because this block is just this set of points, the sensor will activate and the block will be occupied, even if there is no current sensing on the set of points at the time. We're very much in a half-done mess down here, but I'd still very much like to get this this little street scene progressing, and really try and work on my modelling skills and artistic skills. The idea at the minute is this will be a street scene. You've got all the arches, and there'll be some kind of access to the station. You've got the subway steps on both platforms. They still need painting and sort of embedding in a little bit, but it would be in an imaginary world a kind of accessible station from the lower street level, so the whole thing would kind of merge together. It then extends. The idea here would be the kind of the road ends. There'd maybe be some kind of, well, there would be some kind of fencing here, maybe advertisement hoardings, and then in the background you just got this little bit of railway exposed with walls at the back, and then that extends just a little bit into what would be some kind of neglected siding down there. Obviously I've got as far as putting a little bit of ballast down, and just putting a bit of basic paint as a start point on the board, and I kind of stalled at the point. I started experimenting. I haven't done it here, I did it with test ones. I experimented with painting and weathering the rails, and again, painting and artistic stuff is where I really have absolutely no experience and confidence. So I had a couple of goes on test bits of rail, I'm still not entirely happy with what I'm doing, so I'm going to keep going with little test bits for now, but I'm getting there, and that would be the next step here. Up on the platforms, I've still got a lot of work to do. I need to get the little subway steps out and painted. Once that's done, I feel like I can apply all the finishing coats to the platform, get the masking tape out, do nice neat white lines down the edge, and finish that off. I don't think there's anything really stopping me from doing that, because this is part of the scene with the road as well. I'd really like to get scenery and ballast on here too, but I can't at the minute because I've still got stopping sensors to put in, and I want to get all the electrics done before I do any attempt scenery really. So got to get all the stopping sensors along the two platforms, so that all of the automated trains stop in a sensible place when they come to the station. I've also given myself quite a lot more electrical related stuff to do, but that's kind of born from the frustrations I talked about at the start of the video. I'm in the process of making a video about that, so I'll save that for then. Also, as part of this, what might be a scene when it's finished, I'm still working on the idea of the green screen backgrounds, and I have actually made a little bit of progress. The reason why I sort of ground to a halt with that when I did was I had those spotlights attached to these boards here, and spotlights were just, although they kind of looked quite I don't know, interesting to the naked eye, the spotlights don't work with green screens because the light is inconsistent. So I actually pulled them away, and I've got some batten lights. There's another one close to me as well up there now, and they give the camera's much more sensitive to the inconsistent green than the naked eye is, and this camera's really showing that's a much more consistent green in the background now, and that has enabled me to move it forward a little bit, and I'll include an example. I think I've still got work to do, whether that's on the software or the light side, but I'm certainly in a better place than I was with that. But I obviously need some, especially for this kind of scene, need some more industrial background type photographs than I currently have. I think as well, I can be a bit too much of a perfectionist, and I look at the finished product and I can see bits of green and I can see imperfections in it, but I have to, I think, take a step back and look at that in context of if I put a lot of work into putting photographic backgrounds on there, they come with their own inconsistencies and issues as well. So sometimes you've just got to say, yeah, okay, that's all right, and I'll live with it. From a reliability point of view now, I really have got this shuttle automation working in a way I like it. Certainly the software is working reliably, and I'm getting to a point where the trains work reliably, and I have to say I really quite like it. I like having those two shuttles running around. Obviously if I have any trains running around on the upper deck, that's when I need the signals and that kind of thing, and it really needs to keep my attention. But I can run trains around the lower deck while these two are running and just leave them to it. I've had this running for a good couple of hours now, and it does just keep swapping the two over, and it's you know, I like as this train is about to come into shot and demonstrate, I like the idea of, you know, just watching the station and having one train exit and then be replaced by another one coming in. And you know, all the stuff I filmed in this video, I haven't been in control of any of these trains. This has just been software running them back and forward, and I do think it adds something to the layout.